Morning, Craig. Hey, Jim. Doing well. How are you? Good. Good to see you.
Nice to be seen.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on their desks. Boxes.
Yeah.
I don't see boxes anymore.
Don't see them. Right. Oh, right.
So we have 6
What?
total, right now.
So we have 4 here and 5 that are joining in on Zoom or whatever.
Okay, so we're still missing.
Yeah, I think it might be because the email came from Zoom directly. Like I set it up in the.
I think that's how it usually comes, though.
Yeah, it usually says analyst or something.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I got mine on the call.
Okay.
I don't know what's different, to be honest with you.
Lots of people, I mean, lots of types of stuff can like,
Yeah.
and I've noticed that my spam filters have changed hundreds of days. Actually changed a bunch of stuff.
I thought it was just my new computer, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Probably
probably
both.
operator error on my end. After that up was, or I could just say I just a lot more fun. Not entirely accurate, but it made a lot more fun.
It's like, I'll take it. Yeah.
We'll give them all the technical issues, so when we sit down, she'll start.
Let's make sure we have.
So we have,
We've got a form here.
Mhm.
Does that count as being here until the first
right.
January, whatever it is? Okay.
Okay, let us begin.
All right, hang on. Resume.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Over to you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Woodruff. I'd like to start just by introducing a couple staff that are here. I just want to do it early because one of them is that way. She doesn't have to sit for the whole meeting and wait for my report. The others will be here. So the first, we have 4 new staff that have come on since Labor Day. So I just want to make sure that you guys know them. You'll see them around the airport. First, I'm going to introduce our new sergeant, and that's Deborah Herrick. So come on out a little bit so people can kind of see you on screen, maybe a little bit. Actually, I don't know if anybody can see on screen. Let's maybe face the other way. Deborah Herrick is our new sergeant. She started mid-October, replacing Jim Patterson. Harrison, thank you. Patterson is named up there. But Jim Harrison, who was assigned to another sergeant's role, kind of alleviate some things, retirements and things down with the sheriff's department. So she's been with us about a month. It's great having her as part of the team here. But so she oversees all the officers at the unit that's out here at the airport. So, Deborah?
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to meet everybody, see
All right.
everybody's faces.
Yeah, and this is our board, so be extra nice to them.
I got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
We're the insignificant part.
And the other one I want to introduce is Nikki Gerber. Nikki is our new administrative assistant. As you saw from your board report, that Jessica has moved on to another opportunity within the county. And we're blessed that she's actually moving within the county because we worked out a little bit where she can come and train Nikki as part of this, part of our group here. So Jessica is actually, Nikki just started yesterday. So it's been actually probably a record in the hiring process for the county that she was able to start so quickly after an interview on Monday. So we got her all rolling, but you will see and you'll hear from her. So you might see things from Jessica over the next month or so, but as time goes on, you'll see Nikki more and more as part of that. So just welcome to her. She brings a wealth of experience to the position, and I'll go a little bit into that, the position itself, and get deeper into the agenda. That's it. Thank you for allowing me to introduce new team members.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order then. Roll call, please.
Kurt Ardema,
I am here.
Dave Buskirk,
Here.
Gilbert Culver, Greg Hamlink, Nikki Miller. Here. Cecile Much, Eric Rankin,
Here.
Mark Weiss,
Here.
James Woodruff.
Here. Thank you. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda as proposed? Hearing none. And I have a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
We will. Yeah, might as well do a roll call.
Roll call, vote please.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes. Now let's look at the Aeronautics board meetings for board meeting minutes for September 9th. And approval for those minutes, you will have a chance to read them in your packet. So,
Second.
any comments on it? Roll call vote.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes. Next item is public comment. If there's any public comment time is when any member of the public can address the board on a non-agenda item. Anyone wishing to address the board on a non-agenda item should come to the podium, give their name, address, limit their remarks to 4 minutes. If anyone would like to speak about an item that was on the consent agenda, we can ask that it be removed from the consent agenda at this time. Anybody? Moving on to public comment, no public comment, airport financial report.
I'll give a very brief airport financial report and also allow Amanda the opportunity to jump in if she can add anything of flavor to it. We have the report from August and September. We don't have October's numbers yet, just because of time to get it in as well for Amanda's time there. But operating revenues and operating expenses are tracking year to date pretty much in line. There's the summer's been kind to us, I will say, in the sense of our traffic rebound to where we had budgeted dollars. Not necessarily compared to 2019, but where we had budgeted for 2020. So that's why you'll see some of the numbers a little bit higher than where we should be in the year. That's a good thing for the year, certainly to be ahead of where you had budgeted, but not necessarily exactly where we'd like to be compared to 2019. I don't have any specifics in here for anything, but if you do have any specific questions, I'm happy to address them, or maybe Amanda or Eric could add some flavor to it.
Greg, compared to 2019, and curious what were passenger numbers percentage wise over the summer? Were we at 60%, 65% of 2019?
Can I hold that to my report? I have
Okay.
a table that goes.
Okay, yeah, I
covers
just
that.
was trying to think how it relates to the budget standpoint.
Sure.
I'll
Okay.
refer back to it when we get to
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
Any further comments?
Just a quick question on, this may sound silly, but regarding concession revenue. That's based on the volume that they do, right? The sales volume.
That's what it's not. Concessions is a combination of rental cars and restaurant and advertising. So that's all lumped into there. But it would be a combination of minimum annual guaranteed lease rents for that, and then we get a percentage of revenues from rental cars, which would probably be the bulk of that.
Has there been any price changes?
I don't know of any specific price changes. Certainly, we haven't changed anything, but I can tell you that the rental car business is doing very well compared to say the airlines. You know, if you look to where, if you want to historically match it, you know, to the airlines, you know, we'd kind of be doing this, but the airlines post COVID, or you know, as part of COVID, really gone down. But a lot more people are renting cars for those shorter trips that instead of flying. So, you know, give you an example, Columbus, Ohio. I have neighbors who used to fly to Columbus, Ohio regularly. Now they're driving as their companies leaning toward getting it done, but just staying off of airplanes right now.
I would think that the testing down there.
The COVID testing company is doing well. They are just a regular business down there. I've been amazed at the response, to be honest. I did not anticipate that it would be as popular as it is, but it was popular with a lot of people who were getting ready to travel, and that way they can get that COVID test right before they get on the plane. They schedule it. And those who are coming back from somewhere, they can get tested. So, yeah, and that's anecdotal information. I don't have specifics about numbers.
Any other comments? And food for the financial reports.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Kurt Artemon,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes. Items for consideration. Which item? From the car concession contract.
So, vote on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Roll call.
Kurt Artemon,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes. For non-consent agenda items.
All right, we have a number of items on them, some of them procedural and then some of them just all agenda items. We have the proposed meeting dates. I'm sorry, first I'm sorry. Line. Board elections, and Rick Hanley cannot be here, but he and the nominating committee have met, I guess, had a discussion. Mark, can you kind of give a little background on this? It's great tonight here. And then he sent me an email, so yeah.
We, quick discussion regarding the proposal of the names on the list. What he submitted to you with the final
Okay.
product.
Okay. And that list is the same as last year, from what I saw out there. I did make an addition to that list in the sense of it said vacant, in the sense of board assistant secretary. That's because when I sent it to him last week, we did not have an assistant secretary. Now we do. That will be with the Gerber. So that's the only change to what Greg had said.
So the person's last name is not David.
No. Yes. Yes. No longer vacant is that position.
That would fire.
And I don't know if that, I don't know if that's voted on. Or is it just notification?
Let's just,
Just the, not the board.
we don't need a vote.
Okay.
You,
I thought we voted on the
Position.
as
Okay, oh, we vote on the slate. We vote on the slate, the nominating slate.
there's a presentation. of the nominating slate, all in favor.
Do we have to
You- We don't, do we need, we don't need a roll call for that.
I think under this, because we're under Zoom,
Roll call.
Roll call everything, basically.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Kurt Artemon,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Vicky Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss.
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes.
And then the second one is the secretary, assistant secretary appointments, the board appoints myself as secretary and the assistant secretary, which would be. Excuse me. Yes, Ms. Gerber, yeah, okay. I'm still getting used to the name and then, my life is being filled with Nikki's.
I was gonna say, like, every time you say Nikki, I'm like, oh, not like that.
Yes,
We never had that trouble with bacon.
yes, that's right.
Bacon was really quiet.
So, we could do a motion for this.
Can I have a motion for Jerry and secretary, please?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Kurt Artemon,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Vicky Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss. James Woodruff.
Yes.
Meeting calendar is as part of your packet if you have that ahead of time. They're all primarily normal second Tuesdays, with the exception of September 29th. The second Tuesday did not work on the staff side. I apologize for that. Thursday, right? I'm sorry, Thursday, Tuesday. Yep, thank you. So the second Thursday, so third Thursday didn't work on for some of the people on the board. And so we just said with last Thursday, so that's September 29th. So you had your 10-month warning on that one for your calendar. And that actually works nicely for us as a staff, just FYI, because it's about halfway between the two meetings.
Can I have a motion to accept the calendar for
A motion.
Second.
I think it was Eric.
That was Eric.
Thanks, Eric. Roll call.
James Woodruff,
Yes,
Mark Weiss,
I knew she was. gonna do
Eric
something.
Rankin,
Yes.
Vicky Miller,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Kurt Artemon.
Yes.
That's on the couch.
Rodney.
Sure. I'll put that, so I will look for the podium. So we people on the camera can see. So this is for the approval of the land use agreement with Drobny Farms. And this is something that's done annually about this time, at least since 2014, or excuse me, 15, I believe it was. But basically, this is a land use agreement with Drobny Farms for the purpose of farming operations on airport property. That is the airport property that's on the south side of the airport, about 68 acres of land that's down south of our main complex and north of the Pfizer area. For the past 7 years, the board has approved an agreement allowing Drobny Farms to continue to farm this area. The agreement will continue this arrangement for 2022. It's for $150 an acre, or the lump sum of $10,200 for operations in 2022. There were no significant changes from 2021. This agreement will expire on the end of the year, 2022.
So this is something we put up for bid occasionally?
Yeah, I haven't been since I've been there. How's that? I don't know the history of it, if it's gone out for bid in the past. I know it. I don't think it ever did at former airports. It hasn't.
No,
It's
Never.
not.
never heard of it been put out for bid, no. That and a tree farm.
Yes, 68 acres is a small amount for.
And it's not connected to anything, so.
We're happy to figure out the government.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a good job from what staff does. So, I don't think-
Do you have a motion, please?
Okay, on Amanda has something there.
Go ahead, Amanda.
The farmer that's on the property, farmed the property when Pfizer owned it, and and asked to continue to lease it when the airport came into ownership of the property. At that time, I did work to verify that the per acre rate is competitive with the going rate in the area.
That is not changed.
So it's probably low now.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we're lucky to have it there.
Farmers want to drive their trucks on Sawyer Road, right?
So probably has agreements with others in the area.
Yeah, probably used to do some of the land that's now built with the building.
Exactly.
By Stryker and FedEx and others, so yeah, the ability to scale is getting lots and lots, so it would be hard to find somebody. Is there a early exit clause at all if we ever had a need that, I know it's only 12-month period,
Yeah.
but
So the answer is the 12-month period really covers for that. We would have to reimburse for any plan.
yeah, and I'm just trying to think if there was ever, if we ever had somebody really interested in doing something there. Within the next 6 months or something.
Right, right. The ability's there.
We don't want to, we don't want to create an inability to do a bigger scale project at a farm.
That's it.
And the most it would ever be out is 10,000.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
Need a motion?
So
I'll second.
Roll call, please. Yes.
James Wonderful.
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Nikki Miller.
Yeah.
Dave Busker,
Yes,
Kurt Arden.
Yes.
Great. So this is the annual approval of our rates and charges resolution. The rates and charges, as you may be aware of, or from years past, is basically the document that outlines our rates and charges publicly to the rest of the world. As we know, we try to make sure that we remain competitive, and at the same time ensuring that we are acting as the best financial stewards for the airport. So it's that unique balance, and that's what we kind of communicate with our rates and charges to the full. There were some changes to the rates and charges resolution, and as such, I had a meeting with the finance committee to go over them. Mark and David and Cecile, we went through that, had an opportunity to ask and answer some questions on my end. Mark, do you want to add anything from the meeting on that?
I thought it was very good. As we process it.
Thank you. That came out of a process that we did as we were going through the budget earlier this year, where Amanda and I shared the I'll say the rates and charges, and then kind of the inflationary rate of where it would be, and then some competitive information about what some of the other airports around us are charging as well, just to give an update of here's where we are, here's where we stand, and here's where we could be, should be, depending on interpretation and how we feel. I'll just go through some of the changes. It's substantially the same, even though there were some editorial or edits that different, but basically consolidated some language. So that's one of the things we did in there, streamlining of the document to reduce repetitive language. I'll give you an example. We had a page outlining the landing fees for permitted carriers, and we had the same page for non-permitted carriers. Basically, we just got rid of that non-permitted carriers, just put the sentence in there and just put landing fees, things like that. And there's a number of those things that, those kinds of changes just to get rid of that language. We created a rate for disabled aircraft overnight parking. We don't have one, and so there was a need to have one in there. We had a discussion and kind of keeping up with some of the airports around us. We are asking for an increase in the parking rate for long term to $10 per day. but we're keeping it at $63 a week. So what that does is if somebody's going on vacation for a week, there's really no change to that. That's just the normal rate there. But that was, we did an evaluation of our surrounding airports and also got some information from Standard, our SP Plus, our parking provider, on what's in the impacts. We did no changes to the short term. No changes to the short term.
That didn't make it free?
I did not make it free.
That was reviewed quickly, Your Honor.
We created an individual permit fee for ground transportation providers. What that means is right now, we do not have a limousine company here at the airport, which normally that is done with a lease agreement. So, and there's no other ground transportation fees that are collected. We want to be able to collect the fees for ground transportation providers that are operating at the airport. There are at least 3 of them that are operating right now, but they're basically operating, I'll call freelance, and sticking business cards down there on the counters. You guys walk out, you look, they're still there, I'm assuming. So we're going to work with them, and that way they can be, I'll call them blessed or through our process licensed ground transportation providers.
Quick question on
Sure.
that, if I may. So with that, I've seen other airports where, then they will list like approved ground transportation providers. Is that something that could be looked at?
It's something that will be looked at.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know that is a comment that I get, is, we don't even know who to call.
That's right. There is a list on there that we
Okay.
have, but we just grab a list from, I'll say nothing better than the yellow
Okay.
pages
Okay.
to do that. We're struggling, and I've since found out that other entities in the community that rely on shuttle services are struggling attracting these as well.
Okay.
There may be some liability involved.
There is a, yes, I'll just say yes. They will be careful of that. Let's see, we removed some of the language and rates for those rates that are covered by a contract or lease agreement with the airport. So essentially, we have a lease with the folks. We don't necessarily need to mention our rates and charges if it's a lease. For example, our car rental providers, that's all under contract with them. It's not necessarily that it needs to be repeated in the rates and charges there. We streamlined the airport batch fees. You saw last year there was about a dozen different categories. The fees there weren't a dozen different fees, but there was different categories. Eric and Amanda streamlined that earlier in the year, so we just making that. And then we added a new appendix, which includes a summary of rates and adds a number of rates that did not need its explanation in the broader document. And I'll give you a couple examples of those. Rental fees for promotions and movies. So if somebody wanted to, a commercial filming operation wanted to come here, we will now have the ability to charge them. We didn't have the ability through our rates and charges to do so. We also are adding a maintenance labor rate. So every once in a while, I know this happened to me at my former airports, folks would have tasks that needed to really best be done by our maintenance team, or they would leave, say, a hangar a mess, and it would be something that we would end up having to clean or take care of. Now we have the ability to charge that at this rate that's in there. So some of those things, and also we added a lost or replacement key fee and a lock core. So if we have to replace a core, that's not free. That's not cheap. So now we have the ability, and it's communicated with the folks right here. This is where it's done. So those are a bunch of minor, not significant in the way of amount of revenues that we would anticipate, but it allows us the flexibility to now have it fit in the chart. That is it on the changes.
Can I have a motion for changes? Acceptance of 2022 rates and charges.
One second.
Roll call.
For Armand,
Yes.
Dave Busker,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
All right, the next one is the budget adjustment request, and I'm really happy Amanda's on for this one. But basically, when you do your budget, we're doing our budget 18 months in advance of the end of the end of the year. So you make your best estimates on the budgets on the information you know at the time. So that this budget for 2021 was passed by the board in August of 21 or August of 2020. We've since learned a lot more about CARES funding. We actually had 2 more rounds of CARES funding in that time frame. Certainly, we've had a much better idea of what kind of air service we have and what kind of general aviation community and how they're doing. So that's kind of the nature of why you would do a budget adjustment request. We have it in here, and there's some details as part of this, and Amanda did a good job of providing a little more detail for everyone. But really, the bulk of it, and if I have my numbers here, the bulk of it comes through the CARES items that we've had in there. Again, that's money that was provided through the CARES Act to the tune of $19.1 million in April of 2020. So we've got a number of projects underway and under contract that the board has approved in the past, and now it's time to make those adjustments official. Amanda, jump in if I need further guidance on some of this stuff. One of the things that's in here for an operational expense that we did not anticipate at the time was $33,000 for replacement of AFFF foam and the disposal of old foam, and $258,900 in spill-related costs that came from the city of Kalamazoo through their Department of Public Works, I guess, sewer is the organization. As you know, that's as a result of the spill of the foam that happened on March 30th of this year. It's all cleaned up. Everything's working its way through the process. That $258,000, or excuse me, it's roughly $291,000, if memory serves me. $291,000 has an operating reimbursement with that, because we're going to be reimbursed by the provider of our services. So we're not out $291,000, but it does have a line item, a $291,000 line item in the operating expenses. You'll see that under our supplies and our maintenance. And then it has a corresponding revenue request in there for $291,000. That is in works right now, just to give you a quick update. The insurance companies are doing.
Just to add one quick note to that, youth becomes, I guess, because having that in the records might imply that some of this material actually reached the ground, into the ground. I would say it was more an accidental discharge into the sanitary sewer system.
Okay.
So, I mean, if someone's reviewing the records 40 years from now, we
Sure.
don't want the implication that this stuff.
I appreciate the distinction because it is different than a spill. A discharge into the sewer system is much different and treated much differently. So
And much less evasive to the environment.
exactly, and then actually technically correct. So
I'm the last person in the world that was technically correct. I figured that would.
that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you. Amanda, are there anything you'd like to add on the budget adjustment, or if there's any specific questions we can do? Dale might have a question. I see your videos come on.
Dale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask a question about that. The insurance reimbursement, it's in the process, but we're pretty certain that that will actually occur. Is that correct?
I am 99% sure that that will occur at that amount. We've had no pushback from the insurance company. We've had questions about some specifics and kind of how some things were taken care of, but no pushback, and no pushback from the company. They have accepted 100% responsibility.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I didn't want to say anything at a commission meeting ahead of the fact until it's settled. And then if the administration could let the rest of the commissioners know, that would be appreciated. So I appreciate the airport administration working through this. It was very much of a challenge, but thank you for doing that for the county. Thank you.
Sure. Is it, Greg, is it normal where we have an insurance situation like this, an accident that happened, that, let's say it was $1 million, would we be expected to carry the $1 million until we're reimbursed? And it just seems a little bit unusual that we're
I would,
paying up front, seeking reimbursement.
well, because in this case, we were assessed a charge by the county's sewer.
The charge came to us.
Came to us, and then we're passing it along to them.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're not paying it for them. It's just that we are the permitted user entity,
And we don't have the insurance that covers
and
it.
we don't have the insurance that covers the
Because
response.
it's covered by the group that's leasing from us or contracting with us.
Exactly, yeah. So in this case, it makes the most sense. I don't know for other events. I guess it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, that would just, I mean, it could put you in a tight position if it was a major incident. This was caught soon enough where, I don't, it's a big number, but if it was a couple $1 million or something, that would be really, really challenging to navigate.
Absolutely.
So,
It's why we like to make sure we have a nice rainy day fund.
yeah, well, it's encouraging that it's going to be reimbursed too, so.
Yes.
Appreciate the work on that.
Thanks. I think I have to say, just related to that, some of the reasons why some of those charges are not what they could be is because the operations team did a fantastic job on the day of the response. And then also was very receptive to some of the ideas of how we make sure that this doesn't happen moving forward, which was very well received by both the city and the state. All that.
And I guess one more question, so the fines are levied by the city, or are they linked to the state, or do you know where who collects them?
Sure, the city fined us as part of that. It's part of their permit, their process, or their, I'll call their enforcement process.
Right.
The state rely on the city in this case.
State would work with the city if they're right fines, be ready.
The city would be on the hook with the state,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then we pass those along to us.
The city gets their license to discharge into the county river from the state. So we then get an agreement that says this is the only stuff that we're gonna put down the sewer and give to the wastewater treatment. If we violate that, the city cites us, but the state is involved because the state makes sure that the city doesn't, once they're done treating it, doesn't discharge it.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure our liability ends, and we don't have another claim from the state or the federal government.
As
The city would be the one managing that.
From our discussions with them, they probably would not have closed it without a reasonable assurance that the state was accepting of the remediation and the efforts we put in to make sure it's.
Any other questions?
With the removal of the budget for the air care, is that specifically just for 2021, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Because we chose not to do it.
to do it for this year.
Yeah.
So it's something that can still be on the table.
It's
for-
actually in the 2022 budget.
Perfect.
Anybody else? So can I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Kurt Artemon,
Yes.
Dave Buskert,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes,
Eric Rankin.
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodrow.
Yes. Next item is Realignment.
Sure. So position realignment, specifically looking to approve the creation of a full-time finance and administration specialist. Actually, the title's going to be business and finance analyst, and a part-time administrative assistant, and approve the elimination of a full-time administrative assistant. So let me give you a little background on this. As you know, in the last couple months, Amanda has moved downtown to be part of the county. That's temporary through the end of March. Again, I'm hoping that she comes to her senses and comes a little bit earlier back, but for right now, it's through the end of March. And then, so we've muddled through that, doing a good job with, staff, Jessica, Eric, Bill, and others that pulled their extra weight to make sure we're managing that. Then in October, Jessica informed me that she is going to move on to another opportunity that basically gives her more opportunity for growth in her career. Fortunately, it's within the county, so the county doesn't lose her skill set, but we do. So I disappointed, reluctantly accepted the resignation. How's that? In the meantime, if you remember, our 2022 budget had a half-time position approval for somebody in finance. And so we were going to go ahead and hire that in 2022. What we have now, because of Jessica's departure and kind of just an understanding of more in our strategic plan and the whole gamut, and appreciating what Amanda's doing down in the county, I'm making the suggestion that we move our administrative assistant to be a part-time position, and then adding the full-time business and finance analyst for the airport. We have to have this blessed by the board, more specifically for the approval of the full-time position, not necessarily the part-time. So I'm bringing this on in there to that it would be that we would like to create this full-time position that would assist with, I call it the business functions of the airport. And that's why I'm specifically calling it a business and finance analyst. It's not just going to be somebody who is doing solely finance work. We have a lot of things. All you have to do is sit and chat with Amanda for 20 minutes, and a lot of things related to properties, leases and concessions and grants, and just a whole bunch of advertising in the terminal, a whole bunch of those things that at other airports you might have a property manager that's doing those kinds of things. We're looking to just kind of combine those functions into one position that as Amanda would oversee all of that. So it's just more of, I'll say, an organizational alignment with where I think we need to head to support our strategic plan. So from a cost standpoint, because it's a net new of a half FTE, which we approved in the budget to about $20,000. We would be having to do this anyway without Jessica's departure. We would be adding this, but it's going to be something that we had planned on doing in 2022. So this is just kind of something moving up, so we can get the recruiting process. I cannot do any recruiting or anything like that for that full-time position until this point. So from a standpoint of what this change is compared to what we budgeted about $20,000. I do not have that answer. I apologize, but until this is approved, HR can't do the work to set the pay grade for what that new position will be. So my guess is it would be something north of 20,000, but it's not significant. This is an entry-level position, or it's a 1 to 3 year experience position. So nothing significant. I wish I could give you the answer to that, but I just don't have that answer until they put it into the classification system. Is there any questions related to this?
So is the main reason of dropping the administrative assistant down to part-time? Just for the budgeting concern of what we'd already,
I tried to keep it to as close to the budget, what we had proposed and shared in August, yes.
okay. With that already being a full-time position, I'm just wondering, are we still gonna be in the same situation where we need full-time administrative assistant?
So the plan with Nikki is that she'll be here 5 hours a day. So there'll be coverage there. Our phone system as in goes directly to us for a lot of questions. So I will say this is one of the things that we're gonna find out exactly where we so I'll allow it to be an evolution, come back, and I'll tell you how we're doing 6 months from now, something like that.
So I appreciate, being fiscally, responsible and everything with that, but, is there gonna be that breakdown that happens?
The idea is that there will be coverage, you have your part-time there, and that's backup coverage by the full-time person.
Okay.
We've been doing a little bit of modified upfront because we've allowed Jessica to basically have the phones off for the first hour and the last hour with the model forward. The attendant. And that seems to have worked. It allowed Jessica time to work on the things that she has to do that are outside of receptionist duties.
Okay.
I don't have a specific clear answer of how that will look going down. If it works well and we're utilizing the phone system to what its technical capabilities are, then we should have just coordinate and we'll make more notifications. It's not a super busy office, and that 9 to 2 is pretty much when a lot of all the big kind of things. But I do understand what you're saying. I have some of those same thoughts and concerns myself, but yeah, the primary reason was I wanted that full-time position to be that dedicated position, and I knew I could have some flexibility on how this position.
So the other thing, should have known that already.
I don't believe so, but I'll be the first one to admit I'm wrong and come back to everybody. Have to be, we'll hear that. I'll hear from Nikki. More importantly, I'll hear from other stakeholders there. Hopefully, you guys don't hear about it, but be monitoring it quickly.
I trust your judgment, not in managing the situation, but just curious, like, who is coming, are there people coming in the office during the day?
It's deliveries, people who are key hangers. Jessica can answer that better than I. She's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of, it's the,
Yeah,
some of the airlines, and, there are several deliveries and stuff like that, and the phone does ring.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can hear it now, it's like,
And who's calling the front desk? What kind of calls are coming in? Curious.
there's, tenants, people with random people with questions.
People within the organization, primarily, not as much outside.
Well, there's a lot of outside.
Outside,
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions, but I receive a lot of with baggage, brings questions. Stuff like that.
Just from people that have flown and they got the calls like people that. So yeah, it's a customer type calls. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And can I have a motion for approval? Or, all in favor?
Per Argabon.
Yes.
Dave Busker,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes. Next item is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Hearing none, is there any new business? For this one? New business? Then we'll move on to the airport director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to give an update, as I always do. And I'm going to go back. Sorry, that was not. Eric, how do I just want to change slides. Oh, it was a delay. Okay. There we go. Okay, got it. Okay, first is, I always like to touch on our strategic framework, give an update on that. I will say it's been difficult in the last couple months just because of really staff capabilities. We're trying to keep on top of things. And when we lost Amanda to downtown, which it effectively put the things that she's working on hold. So there was a number of things that are kind of on hold in there. We do have a meeting next week with our strategic planning consultant to kind of keep us in the loop. Oh, it's on there. Sorry. Okay. But we continue to work on it, communicate it, but some of the actual tasks are a little bit, as if it's staff dependent, are really slow moving forward, because right now we're in keeping up mode, to be honest, with everyone here. Now, why is that not moving forward? There we go. Okay. Air service, I heard this where you had some questions here. This is October specifically, if you wanted, and that might be hard to read, and I apologize for those of you that are in the room that have a hard time seeing it. But we had a great October, all things, notwithstanding of COVID. Certainly over 2020, we're about 50%. Let me make sure I got everything. About 50% higher than where we were for 2020. Actually, more than that. I don't know why that number's. I got to look at that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at load factor. I apologize. We're at 171% better than 2020, but we're still down 40% in the month of October from 2019. And to your question, Kurt, how are we doing year to date? We're about 44% down from 2019, but significantly over 2020. So we're still hurting, but we've recovered nicely on there. The big problem we have is we're filling the seats. I mean, we're effectively, if you look at American and Delta, 87 and 86% full. And, for those of you who fly a lot, Tuesdays and Saturdays are dogs at this airport for flying. So you think about the rest of the days of the week, those things are going out full, the aircraft. Delta had a 66% load factor. I'm really trying to find out why that is. It's an anomaly in their numbers. If you look through the year, look at it compared to 2019, it was 81%. So it might be a service issue. I heard anecdotally in the system, not specifically to Kalamazoo, but some of the seats are not going out. Because the FAA changed their weight, how you calculate weight and balance in the aircraft. So some airplanes are not going out as full, or let me rephrase that. A 50-seat aircraft that was considered full might now be full at 46 seats. So it just might be how they're doing that. I don't have any specifics on that, but I'm just sharing what I'm hearing around the industry. So I'm encouraged by those numbers, and I know that our carriers are encouraged, or at least the ones I've talked to. And I will talk to United and their planned departure in January for a couple minutes. Certainly it hit us as a shock, but when you're a small airport, you're just walking on eggshells every day when it comes to air service, especially in an environment
where airlines are talking, about meeting their operational needs. And, so I say it was a shock, but at the same time, there were clues. The president of United Airlines gave a quarterly presentation to shareholders where he stated, operationally, we're going to have to make some choices in the future about how we're serving smaller cities. Now, I didn't anticipate that future was a matter of days, or actually it was a couple of weeks, but it certainly, they need to do something. Some of the carriers, and I think Eric Rankin would probably be able to provide a greater insight onto the pilot shortage. The pilot shortage is really impacting the airlines right now and aircraft availability. So there's a number of external factors that are impacting us. And then there's things that we can't control when it comes to United. One of them being our proximity to the hub. It's about 152 air miles to the hub. So that means you're not able to spread your cost over, your cost per available seat mile. And it's just kind of a metric that's used by the airlines. So a short stage length does not bode well for you, especially operationally when you're looking at block time, because there's a lot of block time that goes into that aircraft. Sitting here, we all know it's a 25 minute flight from Chicago to Kalamazoo, but it's blocked in there. You can see it an hour, and they have to block those in there. They have to schedule in there. So I don't profess to be an expert on how they're doing that, but it all does come into the equation. The metrics on revenues that were shared by our consultant have us in, we're in good shape revenue-wise from them. We're not a high-cost airport for them, as in the airport costs. I can't speak to the operational costs for them, but the airport costs are not considered high cost to them. So as I was talking to the network planner, he was almost apologetic that they're making the pullout. And just for everyone, that was, we were announced with 8 other cities that day. And then there was a number of cities that were announced the week before as well. That comes up to about 15 cities that United has shed from their market. But not only did they shed a number of cities from the market, but they shifted a number of flying around their regional partners, and also reduce the number of flights from other cities. So a city that might have 3 flights now only has 1 on United. And that, it was 94, I believe it was 94 communities that saw a reduction in the amount of service. And all those communities are smaller regional type cities. Except for on the flip side, obviously they serve hubs, so the hubs were also hit, but not as significant in that regard. So I sound like the optimist here, and I kind of have to be, but I don't anticipate to be this be a permanent exit for United. I believe it will be an exit that will evolve as their strategy evolves to post-COVID. But I'm not naive to say, everything's fine, we'll just wait and they'll come back. We have to keep an eye on this. And what does this mean to our airport as a whole? One of the things that comes to play is these are 50-seat aircraft. So it's harder to spread the costs off over 50 seats versus 70 seats, 90 seats as well. So these are all factors that we have to be aware of, that I have to be aware of, and make sure that we're responding to those. So I have had communications, as luck would have it, if there's any good luck to have this. I happened to be at an airline conference when I got the news. So I was able to meet with a couple of the airlines that I already had meetings with immediately and share the news, one of them being American Airlines, which obviously serves us. Delta Airlines was not at the conference. I've had conversations with some folks at Delta, but not our network planners there. The immediate response from them was, well, from a competitive standpoint, yeah, okay, that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, there's, instead of 3 airlines, there's 2 if you're them. So it's going to force more to go over their market. But understanding that it's not necessarily a good thing, and they're appreciative and not taking joy in our loss. But what they did tell me is from an immediate response, we're not going to be able to add anything in the sense of, as this is specific to American, they have the same issues that some of the other airlines are having in the sense of operations issues. So it's not going to be an immediate, okay, wow, that's 10,000 opportunities, 10,000 people to pick up, because now you have to put planes in there. And that's been the issue post-COVID for the airport and a lot of other smaller airports as well. Lansing being another one that got cut from the United system. I can tell you that Delta has added added 49 more seats per day in the market, which does come to, I'm assuming, another plane. The metric I saw was all seats related. So that starts in January. So my guess is, even though I haven't talked to network planning from Delta, my guess is they did see the move and have added another aircraft in there. So whether that holds up or not, I don't know. The airlines have been putting a lot of capacity in there. You'll look 3 months out, 4, 5, 6 months out, and you'll say, oh, wow, we're getting 4 or 5 flights a day or 3 flights a day on United American. And then 45, 60 days out, they're pulling those back to what I would call their operational needs. So they're all trying to make adjustments to COVID. A lot of these are starting to come back. But again, a lot of those are leisure type passengers. And we continue to work with leisure carriers, as I've mentioned in the past, and that, those talks continued at the last meeting. We'll see where we go. We've got to be attractive. I implore the board and anybody who's listening that has the power, we as a community, we need to get on board and keep flying out of Kalamazoo and communicate that to everybody. But also, I think strategically looking ahead, work with our partners to also develop a broader incentive program to help attract and retain air carriers. Any questions on United or Air Service? I don't think I have. No, let me go back up. Okay.
Greg, I had go ahead.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
I just had a couple. So when I saw when you shared the information about United, I went to full of cities because it's what I do in my job. I look at markets all the time, comparing cities. And so I pulled the 8 that were announced with Kalamazoo, the total of 8, and then I found 3 others, so a total of 11.
Right.
And I just looked at population, major employers, presence of the university, nearest airport competition, nearest hub, kind of things that you went through. And Kalamazoo, from a metro population standpoint, was the second highest population out of the 11.
Right.
That seemed being the highest.
Right.
And you look at the other cities, College Station, Texas, which is Texas A&M's
right.
town.
Yep.
Columbia, Missouri, which is University of
Missouri.
Neither one of those have much of a business presence outside of the university.
Right.
I can see. Wausau, Wisconsin was the other small market.
Right.
11,000 in the metro. Evansville, Indiana, which I think was added with Kalamazoo
In
back
2016. Correct.
Yeah. They, again, market's a little bit smaller, pretty comparable, but not quite the same corporate presence that we have here. Eileen, Texas, which is Fort Hood.
Right.
And then Monroe, Louisiana, which has a little bit of a corporate presence, but a much smaller population, has 180,000. And then the other 3 were here, South Dakota, Watertown, South Dakota, and Swift Falls, Idaho, which are much smaller.
Well, those are EAS markets.
Yeah.
So they pull those. And then another market that they pulled before that was Rochester, Minnesota.
Rochester, Minnesota,
Yes.
which has kind of a one-off as the Mayo Clinic.
It's Mayo Clinic.
Right quarters, but also close to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I guess what I'm getting at when I looked at those, and I thought, boy, there's 2 strong markets, and there's 2 markets that are outliers, and it's Kalamazoo and Lansing. And I guess it's encouraging that we're at the top of that list from a population standpoint and employer-based standpoint. But it's also odd that we're the 2 that were canceled. It makes me wonder the conversations that Grand Rapids has with some of the United staff too, and if
No,
Yeah.
no,
I don't know. but,
yeah,
But I think it just shows we need to be competitive. We
Yeah.
have an opportunity.
Right.
To keep this service. We're not, I think some of these cities are much, much smaller and have kind of they have one organization in town that's pulling the service for
Mhm.
them. And it's, I guess to your point, we need to be optimistic, but we need to be really strategic too.
mhm,
And we don't want to be sitting here 6 months from now talking about American
right,
doing the same thing.
no,
Because
absolutely,
they're basically running the same operation as United.
absolutely.
So,
And that's where I say, we have to be aware of those external concerns. It'd be one thing if we just knew we were a high and expensive airport to operate out of here, but it's all these external factors that have come into the decision making that are equal for other carriers that could make that decision. So it's something that if you ask me what keeps me awake at night, it's not spiders, it's these kinds of things. So,
thank you.
sure. Nikki?
My question would go more into, the air service committee and,
Mhm.
starting those meetings back up might, be beneficial or, I know in our current climate, it hasn't been easy to conduct
Sure.
meetings like that.
It's been difficult to conduct meetings. I've also had conversations, Kurt actually, and I had conversation as well. We want to restart those,
Mhm.
but we want to make those in a productive form. The feedback I got from, I'll call committee members who are non-board members, from as I reach out to
Yeah.
people was, there was not much value in them. It was an opportunity to get together and hear what they heard the prior meeting, because air service development does not move very fast. And I mean, think about in my 2 years here, I've not really brought much new information in there. We talked to airlines and stuff. So we're trying to come up with something that is interesting and worthy of the communities. And I've been on these committees in the past as well, and it's the same flavor because it's not just Kalamazoo, it's other communities that it moves slowly for these things. But I am working with. I wanted to have a meeting in December. I don't think logistically and COVIDly we should have it, but to the spring, bringing our air service consultant to come in and really talk about the market from an air service standpoint at a I'll call it an informational size thing, and then also a smaller committee type of thing. So it's not that it hasn't gone away or has gone away. It's more of trying to make it as productive as it can be.
Sure.
So. Any other questions?
To Nikki's point, I think what this community needs to know is that we're not on this inevitable road of the service is just dwindling and shrinking. There's other communities our size and smaller that are retaining their service and growing their service. So if we as a community rally together to really put support behind this airport, then I think our numbers show that we can do it.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think that they need to know that it's not just, there's not one path forward and it's just use the service until it's gone.
Right. It's I love this. Eric found this article into some of his old files, and I think it's important to communicate this. So it's a headline that says Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport, surrounded by competitors, must face challenges. That was April 5th, 1998. So not much has changed, except for, no longer ATR 72s. They're, we've got jets. So the work needs to continue to happen to grow that. I mean, at the time it said we had 7 airlines and number of flights per day. I think something like 50 flights a day. Now, the problem is they're not 7 airlines anymore. Those 7 airlines were all legacy carriers. And now, we're down to really 3 legacy carriers that are out there. So air service dynamic has changed since 1998, but the importance to the local community, the importance to the airport, and the strategic importance for staff to keep following that has not changed. So. Anything from those on Zoom? I can't. Oh, I better
kind
look.
of agree with Kurt there, Craig. We need to get information information out to the community that they need to support the airport and realize how valuable it is. I don't have the exact information in front of me, but one of my crew members who commuted out of Grand Rapids past week, she said their flights were reduced. However, I think she said they were reduced to 4. I'm guessing that's going to Chicago, but in January, they're going back up to 8. And a concern I had was if they're going back up to 8 and they're pulling out of Kalamazoo, I don't know if they're thinking one of those additional flights that they're adding up there is going to pull people from Kalamazoo up to Grand Rapids.
And Lansing as well. So, yeah, I mean, you think about it, I mean, we were, roughly in normal years, about 36,000 passengers, I believe, on about 30 to 35,000 passengers a year in plane passengers. And Lansing was a little bit smaller than us on the United front. That if they're going to try to consolidate the capacity on those, that's the way to do it. I'm not convinced that they'll be successful with that strategy because if folks are looking to go to another airport or drive, they're just going to have that opportunity to pick a number of different airlines to do so. I do know there's we're going to work with American to try to and Delta to make it attractive to attract United business flyers, so they can stay in the marketplace. That's important for me, just because I want to make sure that they're not driving elsewhere. And United is aware of those kinds of things as well. So I don't know what the answers are, what their response of, what their long-term goals are outside of, what I heard Scott Kirby say during his quarterly earnings statement. I'll be intrigued to see how they're gonna feed a lot of that when they cut small communities out of that, especially small communities that provide a good bit of revenue and also feed the international traffic. And as a number of people told me about our international presence here, we punch above our weight class as a community. That's because of the strong presence of Stryker and Kellogg's as well. So I'll be interested to see where they go. I hope that that they see the error of their ways and return service to the smaller communities. Certainly, us being the top one.
What's frustrating though is when they tell us it's a shortage of pilots and aircraft, and yet the numbers from what Eric is saying, essentially our planes and our pilots go to a neighboring airport, and the same with Lansing. So it's not as if they just don't have enough to run the flights. They just don't want to run here.
Yeah. Well, they're struggling. I don't know how they're doing. Eric probably seen enough, bid sheets and things like that to tell you if they're running low. But
as far as crews,
yes.
Well, what's happening? The majors are in this big hiring boom, and they're pulling all of the regional captains, the regional check airmen are the ones who are being hired. So there's a lack of qualifications for captains at the regional level, which is causing most of the staffing issues and cancellations and drawdowns from what you're seeing on the regional level.
Yes.
Our bid that just closed the other day, I will tell you, we have, I believe, 171 positions on wide body airplanes that went unfilled. And we also had, I think it was 38 captain positions, which went unfilled, which is unheard of. And so they're still hiring, I forget how many they're hiring a month now, but it's just consistent every week that they're bringing people in to fill the vacancies that we have. And along the international markets, Asia appears to be still closed. Person on the airplane the other day flew from San Francisco, Tokyo, Newark, back to Tokyo and back to Newark. And out of all those flights, they had 88 passengers total.
Wow. Wow. That's
So they're still waiting for Asia to open up, and then things
Sure.
may start to pick up considerably more.
wow. That's man, that's hard to swallow. 88 passengers on all those flights. So all right. Any more questions regarding United or anything air service? All right, I'll go on to the next one. I just wanted to share our marketing firm. We've shifted a lot of our stuff to digital, and they shared with me the latest stats. These were, I believe, from a quarter. From June to October, but 80,000 delivered impressions, which means 80,000 folks or 80,000 people have seen our commercials digitally. And that's the completion ratio of 98%. So 98.45% of the people who see our commercial watch it to the end, which is, I don't know how you guys deal with commercials. That's pretty impressive that they do that. So it's consistent that they're across the board, although there was an increase in September, significant increase, which our gut tells us that it's basically students who have returned back to Kalamazoo, because it's just that we don't have any statistically to say why it's gone, why it went up in September and October. We think that the students are back and they're the ones watching, through, I'll call your digital platforms that are watching that. So it's interesting. And if you're so inclined, and maybe, you know what, I'll share the detailed stuff in my next director's report with you guys, just so you can see some of the interesting facts that they're pulling from. It's interesting is when we started this in February, we were doing this. And then now, because we get specific information, we're honing in on specific zip codes that we know are watching it. And so it allows us to, I say, spend our money a little more focused on it from an advertising perspective. So it's going really well. I'm pleased, even as I admit I don't fully understand the digital marketing on that. And I'm not one of the consumers that are seeing it. So a number of things. I just wanted to say introduction of staff. We had Nikki and Deborah, but our intern arrived, and that's Shalene Abuga, and she is a senior at Western. Kind of go right around in there so the people online can at least see. I can't know. They can't see it. What am I here? I'll wait on. I'm going to stop share. There we go. There we go. Shalene's there. So she is, you see her, she's also a veteran. So she's in the Army Reserves right over here outside our parking lot. So she's been with us for a couple of weeks. She's fantastic. She's going to be with us through the rest of the school year. And, maybe if we can entice her and opportunities, she might be wanting to stick around. But she's been a great addition and doing some smart things. And I'll give Eric credit, and I think he worked with Amanda on this, but I don't know if he did, but revamped our internship program so that's kind of a little more formalized and goes through everything airport a little more formally than we did it before. So you can have Shalene. So, and right now her big project is going through a room full of old drawings. So at the end of the day, at least the end of the first couple weeks or month here, she'll be an expert in engineering drawings, or at least an expert in which ones to get rid of. So we got a room full of old drawings, but she's been a good addition. And then let me pull up my thing here. The other two new employees couldn't be here today. So, and I like to share new employees because as you come through the airport, you see them, then you at least know what they look like. So I'm going to skip this. Dylan Ratliff and Marvin Potter on the screen. You can see there are new airport operations folks. I'll say good guys. I'll try to refrain from saying good kids, but they're young, and it's really neat. And that's what I really like about this airport. There's a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and they bring a bunch to the table with that. So Marvin, Dylan, Shalene, Nikki, and Deb. That's a lot of new faces at an airport, especially an airport this small. But that's we're a small airport, and we want to encourage people to go on and do things, and that's what some of those opportunities. Why new folks, because of those opportunities. I was going to introduce our legal counsel, but I don't see Mike in the room. He was on his way up through here. We have county corporate counsel, but we also have airport counsel, which helps with airport specific things. And Mike does that for us. And then I just wanted to mention that we had 2 honor flights since our last meeting. I know one of them was an A321 that had about 180 passengers on it that went out. So that was a really nice thing to see. And staff, obviously Honor Flight does a great job organizing that, but it is a lot of coordination on our staff as well. And so Eric's team does a great job with that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was the infrastructure bill. I'm sure everybody has read that, but nobody specifically has seen what it has said for Kalamazoo. Even I haven't, but we have partners, and I have a friend who used to be in that office who calculated that number, and we're going to see about an extra 1.5 to 1.6 million in airport improvement dollar funds. Normally our allotment is about 1.6. It's based on enplanements and things like that. So we're going to see an additional 1.5 million, which probably over the next 2 or 3 years will be dedicated to the runway extension project. That just because we were designated to have discretionary funds from the FAA, but now that we have this, we'll be using our entitlements, which means we just use less discretionary. But what that will allow us to do, assuming this number stays over the course of the years, will allow us to invest in other portions of the airport as well. Now, there's a whole bunch of limitations. You guys are familiar with the Airport Improvement Program funds. There's a whole bunch of limitations on what it can be used for. It's really specifically for runways, taxiways, and things related to the flying. So, but it'll be nice for us to have that, because it will allow us to accelerate some other things that are in our capital improvement program a little bit quicker. So that's it. Sorry to be long-winded, but I only see every 2 months, so I have to tell you. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Director. Number 10.
Sure. Thanks for your work on the honor flights. I think that's a great program, and it's great to have it here in Kalamazoo. It was kind of a regional program, right, where they bring people in from a pretty wide area. I know people north of Grand Rapids and way east and over here too to the flight. So it's a great program. We want to steer specifically for the size. Yeah. Well, it's a great program, so thanks for your work on that. And then one last thing, and this, I mentioned this to Greg before too, but if you have people that feel like they want service from Allegiant or a discount carrier, encourage the public to send a note to the contact us page on those websites. And you never know if it's going to hit the right spot at the right moment. Hey, these people keep saying Kalamazoo, maybe we should take a look at it. We've had that before in my day job in real estate development, where certain retailers are desired within the community, and the community will go out and do an effort and just send a note to this company, and it can be successful, and there's no guarantee that anything happens from it, but it doesn't hurt to have people out there in the public just saying, hey, look at Kalamazoo, look at Kalamazoo. So I just happened to do one a couple weeks ago and immediately got a response from them, that, hey, thanks for the note. We'll take a look at Kalamazoo. So I especially some of the younger
Newer airlines.
leisure
Yeah.
airlines
Yeah.
who are, kind of looking for service opportunities.
Right.
So don't be afraid to send the notes. Thanks.
Sure.
Mark, anything? Vicky?
Nothing.
I had something and I lost it. I'll bring it back if I think about it.
Eric, anything?
No.
Oh,
Vicky?
I remember. The TSA pre-check event.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that.
Yeah, I had several, like I did another post of it for this week and people were like, hey, it's all full,
It's-
which is,
So yeah, if I may, just a quick update on that. I even went down right beforehand to get the numbers and then totally forgot it. But we're up over 200 people for Monday, Tuesday, and then yesterday was Wednesday, and then we're about 200. We're about 30 this morning. So all said and done, probably about 250, 260 people will have gone through, which I know from doing these in the past at other airports. 200 to 250 is considered a rousing success on their part. So we'll continue doing these in the future. It's good. It brings people into the airport. As I was down there on Monday talking to somebody, that said, we haven't been to the airport in years. This is a really nice facility. And so it just, those are the kinds of things you bring them in, make them aware of at least that there's an airport. I mean, and then they can come in and see what we have.
Interesting to poll to see, when's the last time you feel like Kalamazoo. Just kind of get a read, because they're going to be probably pretty frequent flyers, and if they're coming through to do the pre-check, so it'd be interesting to
Sure.
get information from them about this facility.
Yeah, actually, there was a number on when I was down there on Monday and then on Wednesday, because I had a meeting with somebody that was volunteering there. So I sat there for about a half hour. A lot of leisure who people were, they just knew of the program, but have not been aware of, or, there are opportunities to get TSA pre-check there's a facility here
I've done it
in
some
town.
office
Yeah.
buildings.
But
Tuesday and Thursday.
yeah, exactly. So it's not convenient. So if we make it convenient here, we can,
Right.
it's there. So we'll get that. That's a good idea if we can get some other information from them. I don't know if TSA will allow us to collect the information, but it doesn't hurt to ask,
Yeah,
right?
right,
So,
right.
so we'll see what we can
Or
do.
just informal stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
get people while they're down there.
Exactly.
The other thing to piggyback off of that, I was just at a travel advisor conference where there were like 2,000 of us. And one of the agencies had actually brought in like a global entry bus to their facility. Granted, she's South Florida, so it's a little different. but,
Right.
to offer that.
Yeah, I've
as
seen
a
that.
service. So,
Mhm.
the pre-check is great, but I think global entry could, continue to benefit the business and leisure
Sure.
community. If
Yeah.
there's just those discussions we could have with TSA. I
Yeah.
don't know if we initiate it or if they initiate it.
We would initiate, just like I initiated the TSA pre-check.
Okay.
And just because of my experience doing them in the past.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to push too much because I didn't know what the success would be here.
Exactly.
So start with pre-check, it's a success, and then we'll find out more what we can do from there.
Okay.
David, anything?
Anything, David?
Dave Buster, anything? No. No. All right, I
Um,
don't have anything.
Oh, yeah, Eric. Oh, Eric Rankin.
I got Eric.
Oh, you,
Yeah.
Eric,
No,
any-
I'm good.
okay. And then Dale Sugars from Commissioners.
Oh, Dale, anything?
No, I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have nothing, so, we'll adjourn
Excellent. Thank you.
at 11:59.
I